So I'll visit Johnni Kjeldsgaard from Growth Africa. They do business development and help with financing in East Africa and in Kenya specifically.
The thing that's unique about Africa is all the things that's not been done yet. So I think the environment in Africa and Kenya is, generally speaking, very suitable for an entrepreneur because there are many things that need to be fixed. There are many broken or imperfect value chains that needs entrepreneurial energy, that needs new inventions or even old inventions that can be applied in new ways. So looking for things that might not be working perfectly, looking for these broken value chains is something that would be the first thing that I would do if I'm looking for business opportunities in Africa and in Kenya specifically. I think another thing that is unique about Africa and Kenya as well is that there is very limited data. It's not a very good payoff to theorize too much about what your business is and try and rely too much on the data that is or is not there. It is much more effective as a method to just go out there and try out your ideas. It is much better much more effective in terms of getting the data back and getting the experience back that you need as an entrepreneur or as a new business going into Africa by going out there and trying it out. The amount of feedback that you can get from that is much more valuable than trying and reading other people's reports. I think there is perhaps a limited amount of experience in terms of staff. Kenya is a little bit unique compared to the rest of Africa. In Kenya we do have a pretty good supply of middle management and top management talent that is worth recruiting, but I think that's a pretty unique situation. Maybe a few other countries, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, but most African countries you're unlikely to find a lot of very skilled, very talented local staff. So that will be a challenge that needs looking at, either in the way of looking at how can you recruit people that's not necessarily from the geography that you're working in, but also looking at making sure that you have a local foundation and building learning and development from the very get-go in terms of your team and developing and strengthening your team from day one. That usually pays off in many ways.
What do you look for specifically in a business case? What are the key factors?
Well, I think obviously, as I mentioned, because there is, generally speaking, in the efficiency of team experience, if there is a team, they have the right industry experience, they have exposure within the industry that they're working in, as well as from outside. And that could be having just visited as a tourist other countries within the continent, but also outside of the continent. That usually bodes for someone who is more capable and more creative around coming up with solutions. So I'd say an experienced and well-balanced team, even teams that are experienced but not well-balanced, that are either loop-sided on the technical side or loop-sided on the sales side or administrative side, they also will struggle more than a well-balanced team. And I'd say, as I mentioned before, someone who's identified a real opportunity in the sense of a broken or a supply chain that's ineffective, that needs fixing. Someone who's kind of made a good case out of a real need that is there. In many ways, we prefer business-to-business solutions rather than business-to-consumer solutions. That's not a general thing. I would say don't go for business-to-consumer solutions. There's certainly a case to be made there, but it is less obvious than a lot of the business-to-business solutions that are there. And then the final thing is kind of a sexiness or an investability case or a financeability case. There is quite a lot of money available in Africa for the right project, so you need to make sure that you are that right project.
So what would you say are the main challenges that you have?
I think if we're looking at especially indigenous entrepreneurs and businesses that are led by Africans themselves, there is a very difficult trade-off between reaching a certain size with your business, reaching a certain level of scale with your business, and your obligations as an individual in an African community. If you're seen as somewhat successful as an African entrepreneur, as an African leader, then there is a lot of responsibilities that your extended family would put on you. So at some point, the trade-off between scaling more and looking after your family and these responsibilities loops in the favor of not scaling. And I think that's perhaps one of our biggest struggles. It's an aspect that relates a lot to leadership and the leadership development that we do as an organization, in that can you see yourself as more than just a provider for your extended family and for the community that you're operating in, and perhaps look at yourself as something that goes beyond that. So I think scalability becomes a key issue from a leadership perspective, but it also feeds into financing, because if you're not ready to, in a true sense, to scale your business, then you're very unlikely to get the financing that you need to do that in the first case. So when you're partnering with a local business and when you're looking to invest in a local business, making sure you understand the team and the leadership and their interest in actually scaling is of crucial importance, because that might be the biggest hindrance for these plans to actually take effect.